Moving on, amid escalating tensions in the South China Sea, the Philippines and the US are holding 2+2 talks in Manila. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken and Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin will also meet their Filipino counterparts. Earlier, the two leaders met Philippines President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. on Tuesday. The Filipino president told the US cabinet secretaries Blinken and Austin that regular engagements between Manila and Washington were needed to ensure agile responses to his country's maritime tensions with China. Marcos also greeted Secretary of State Antony Blinken and Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin at the Malacang Palace on Tuesday morning ahead of meetings with their Filipino counterparts, which is the first such meeting hosted by the Philippines. And I'm joined by DD India's Laura Westbrook to discuss more on this. Laura, when we talk about the Philippines and the United States, which are all set to hold a 2+2 dialogue between their foreign and defense ministers in Manila, what are the expectations of both the nations from this particular meeting? Laura.
Yes, the U.S. Secretary of State and his Defense Secretary, they've been making this tour of Asia, and they're now in Manila to meet with their Filipino counterparts. They will be holding a press conference later this afternoon, and we are expecting an announcement on a military arrangement between these two countries that could be, according to reports, about $500 million in military funding to boost the Philippines' defenses. This includes funding for the Philippines' naval operations. This all really centers around concerns about the South China Sea and what the Philippines and the United States see as China's increasingly assertiveness in this disputed waters. According to under the Philippine President Marcos Jr., we have seen a more assertive Philippines, which has been growing closer to the United States. They have been bolstering their military exercises recently. In May, we saw these joint military exercises between the United States and the Philippines, which for the first time ever took place in the 12 nautical miles outside the Philippines' territorial waters, and they simulated retaking islands facing the South China Sea and Taiwan. So we are expecting an announcement later today, which will be about military spending as these two nations grow closer together in what they see in the face of a growing assertive China.
And considering this 2+2 meeting, what sort of a message is it going to send Beijing? We know that there are tensions in the South China Sea. Laura.
Yes, tensions in the South China Sea between the Philippines and China have been growing more frequent and more combative. They actually, the most recent, one of the most the fiery clashes was on June 17th when in the disputed Second Thomas Shoal we saw some Philippine sailors being injured, and this was seen by many to be a real escalation in these encounters between the Philippines and China. Since then, the Philippines and China have signed a provisional agreement to allow resupply missions to Filipino sailors who are on board this beached ship in these disputed waters. And the first resupply mission took place on Saturday without incident. But this is a fragile agreement, and on Monday we saw Japan and the United States announcing its own defense agreement, and the United States and Japan said that they were seeing increasingly provocative behavior by Beijing in the South China Sea.
Beijing has responded, and it said that this is a malicious. These are malicious actions that in response to what Japan and the United States have said, and it's called its activities normal naval and military operations. So it's really refuted those allegations. But this is a really important and strategic waterway. Trillions of dollars pass through it every year, and so who controls it is really at the heart of this.
All right, thank you so much, Laura, for joining us and bringing us a rounded perspective on the 2+2 meeting.